time all the work that's been done, especially in Matt's 26 years of outstanding service to our state. So I'm going to just try to hit on some of those things. You know, Senator McCoy has certainly been a leader in our Senate, in our caucus, and is currently an assistant leader. He served on, most recently, the Transportation and Infrastructure Budgets, Government Oversight Committee, Full Appropriations, Commerce, Local Government, the Ways and Means Committees, and also on the Capital Planning Commission. When government isn't working, Senator Matt McCoy has always been a legislator who took responsibility to find out what's gone wrong and to create policies to prevent it from occurring again. On the Commerce Committee, he fought to continue Iowa's economic progress by helping small businesses and local businesses grow and expand. Most recently, Senator McCoy worked with Representative John Forbes on a bill called Healthy Iowans for a Public Option to create a public-to-public discussion to ensure every Iowan has access to more affordable and reliable health insurance. On the Oversight Committee, on behalf of children who have fallen through the cracks in the Iowa Department of Human Services, he looked into staffing, general welfare practices, and internal policies at DHS. He fought and continues to fight to improve our child protection system in our state to stop Iowa's most vulnerable children from falling through the cracks and unfortunately being killed by abuse, neglect, and starvation. All the while, he stood for social workers struggling to deal with this crisis, who are also victims because of a seriously underfunded system. During the 2014 legislative session, Matt led the passage of an updated HIV and contagious disease transmission legislation, making Iowa the first of 34 states with outdated and unjust legislation to do so. In 2013, Matt was the Senate Democratic leader for a bipartisan comprehensive property tax reform that really stood and fought for Iowa's small businesses. Through the Infrastructure Committee, he advocated for investments in state roads, our crumbling infrastructure, and other critical facilities that are important to Iowa State's economic prosperity. And on the Ways and Means Committee, I worked with him to help create a Iowa Innovation Fund that kind of took the place of the Iowa Fund of Funds, a fund that's actually working to help Iowa startup businesses with innovation fund dollars. We also worked together on the Reinvestment District Acts that really helped build the hotel here in Des Moines and across the state. Even in my district in Waterloo, buildings were being built because of his work on that. Over the years, he's received numerous honors and awards, and almost too many to go through, but a few are, he received the Des Moines Convention and Visitors Bureau Civic Champion Award, the Community HIV Hepatitis Associations of Iowa Award for his efforts on their behalf, the Corn Growers Association, the Autism Society of Hometown Hero Award, and I want to thank him for his work on getting access to individuals with autism in our community in the Cedar Valley, and thank him for his outstanding service for children with autism. The award from the Iowa Healthcare Association and the Iowa Center for Assisted Living for his efforts to protect Iowa's elderly. He's also been honored by the Easter Seals of Iowa, the Iowa Federation of the Blind, and the Central Iowa Shelter and Services. You know, one of the things that I think is one of his greatest honors, because my grandson just achieved it, he was active in the Boy Scouts of America and received the rank of Eagle in 1981. And he continues to support those programs that support young boys through the Boy Scouts programs.
Well, there's a lot to say about Senator McCoy. I've broken it up into a few blocks here. Senator McCoy, I'm going to try not to speak to you the whole time with my back to you. Where to start? Well, let's start on policy. Senator McCoy's has a wide policy repertoire. He spent a lot of time poring over how to ensure that the state's public infrastructure, the state complex, our region's campuses had the facilities they needed, and he was a champion for progressive spending. I know in Iowa City on the University of Iowa campus, there's many projects he had a hand in. Most notable one, and actually the largest campus project in history, is the new pharmacy building being built now. Senator McCoy was a big champion for that building, and the reason he was a big champion for that building is that the pharmacy program at the University of Iowa is in the top 10 in the country. We attract a whole bunch of really good researchers there that do a lot of really good work. Senator McCoy also ran back in 2007 when we decided that the single most important thing to do to control kids starting smoking cigarettes was raise the tobacco by $1 a pack. Senator McCoy was a big champion of that. And I remember being up in Senator Gronstall's office. The tax at that point was 36 cents a pack, and Gronstall says, we can't have it be more than $1, McCoy. And we were so it was going to be 63 cents, and Matt's like, no, Mike, the advocates want $1 a pack increase. And that's ultimately what we ended up doing, but Senator McCoy was a big champion for that. And of course, we all know about the flower pots, or your consultants do, the Blank Park Zoo, and of course the shuttle, the free shuttle for lobbyists from downtown to here. And I was actually door knocking in Muscatine in fall of 2016. Senator Lofgren, and I knocked on a door, and a guy came to the door, and he'd seen your commercials about the flower pots and the shuttle and the zoo, and he said, I really think, I thought that was a really, he was not, I'm not sure how he voted, but he really liked the fact that we were investing in a zoo, and how can we invest in more than one zoo? It's expensive, and he really thought we were saving energy by having a shuttle from downtown to the Capitol. So he actually thought those were really good investments, Senator McCoy. We're kind of tired of that advertising, by the way. It could go away at any time. Senator McCoy has also been a strong leader and really a conscience and voice for the LGBT community here. You know, we get here to the Senate, Matt's been here a long time, life kind of goes on around you, right? Your life kind of goes on. And as Matt served in the Senate with us, his life also changed quite a lot. Matt, I think, is the first openly gay man to serve here in the Iowa Senate. And he had a lot of undue responsibility, or took on a lot of responsibility, I think, to teach all of us and help all of us understand the challenges of gay and lesbian, transgender Iowans. And of course, there were some difficult times here around those issues. In 2005, the Senate, there was a vote one evening to change the state constitution to ban gay marriage. And it didn't pass. It actually tied on a 25-25 vote. And Senator McCoy was there for that. And it was a difficult time. There was a lot of discrimination. But I think Senator McCoy has encouraged us to be tolerant. And he has really stood up again and again with a voice that I think has been helpful for all of us to hear about the need for us to be tolerant and to accept each other. And of course, then marriage equality came. But Senator McCoy's been a leader for our kids. He's been a leader here in our state on equal rights. and he's actually a leader in our country in speaking up for vulnerable, marginalized Iowans. And I don't know if you had a special responsibility to do that, Senator McCoy, but you took it on with grace. So let me talk about being from Polk County. I'm not from Polk County, but I think it's probably hard being a Polk County legislator. You're here, you've got challenges, you got to go to stuff during the week. You can't, when we're here from other parts of the state, well, I'd love to come to that meeting, but I'm in Des Moines. So there's a little pressure on that. But Des Moines is also this place where in Polk County, they take a lot of cheap shots, right? From those of us that aren't from here, we're always like, oh, Des Moines, they're doing it for, you go home and, oh, they get it in Des Moines, we don't get it in our district. And I know for people that have come to Des Moines, you come down here for the session, it's not a bad place, right? Anybody hate being here? It's overtime, we're ready to go, but you find a few places to go, you go, God, it's not so bad in Des Moines. Des Moines is kind of a nice place. And it's a nice place because there's, some investment here because the center of state government's here. But I always feel bad for the cheap shots that our Polk County legislators have to take on things like, franchise fees, and we're going to take over your water system, and all sorts of interesting things that come about from time to time. Postcards. You can always run against Des Moines, right, Senator Schneider? Although you probably wouldn't. Senator McCoy's been known for colorful language. Certainly in our caucus, we've enjoyed a lot of it. Oh, he shares some of it on the floor, and I might return to that in a minute. But I want to thank you for your service to your constituents here in Des Moines and Polk County. You're on to a new challenge here. You've got your hands full in the next few weeks to make a case for being on the Polk County Board of Supervisors, and I wish you well and success with that. And that's going to be a lot of work. Probably the last thing to say, Senator McCoy, it's time for you to come down off the cross. We need the wood.
When I came here, Senator McCoy sat over there, and I just came in a special election. And what I remember is he was one of the busiest guys already at that time. He also was, I thought, one of the best parents I saw. He was very active in Jack's life. And I can't believe Jack is now in college. But he really took the extra time and was very concerned about Jack. And I appreciated that as I came in, just watching all the different responsibilities. I would say that you are probably one of the most quotable senators that we have. And if they could only know what doesn't come out on the floor, there could be books. But as Senator Dotzler and Senator Bolkcom said, you are a fighter, and you fight for people that don't have a voice. And that is really important in this day. And you don't just talk about it, you follow through on it. And you're always focused on the future. That's one of the things that I've noticed since the time I've been here on what you're doing. It isn't about what we did or how we're going to get through this. It's the future. And I wish you well in your future. And you've certainly fought for a lot of us. Thank you.
Matt, I have known you for more than 20 years. We were in a breakfast club together. And Matt was kind enough to give me some great advice when I first ran for office. You might not know, but Matt's brother Mike was one of my clients before I joined the legislature when I was working in the private sector. And I can tell you that the McCoy family, all of you, have such very lovable personalities, and it's been an absolute honor to serve with you. And I'm really going to be sad to see you leave the Iowa Senate. I think probably my fondest memories working with you were on the Government Oversight Committee. I had Senator Shane John on one side and Senator McCoy on the other, and I can't think of two more different personalities to get to work with on that committee, and how much fun we had as we were discovering the hush money and the cronyism and friends and family, which apparently is still going on in state government to this day. I think when you spoke in the government oversight committees, I was saying to myself, thank God this guy is on our team, because he would really scare me if he wasn't. Matt, you have been an absolute champion for people who need a champion, especially Iowa's children. The work that you've done and pointing out legislation that we passed that has been bad for our state, your willingness to admit it and try and fix it. You just are such a champion for children. And as the first openly gay legislator the state of Iowa has ever had, I thank you for being a role model for so many children who feel shamed from their sexuality, who shouldn't, and they can turn and look to you for guidance and support. Thank you for being their voice. My kids always love it when we're in the car and the phone rings and they see Matt McCoy's name on the screen, because they know they are going to get some really, really good stuff. They probably should put on earmuffs, but anyway, I hope that we'll still have some colorful conversations in your new role as you leave the Senate. I just want to thank you for being a strong voice, not only for Polk County, but for people across our state. And we really are going to miss having you here.
Matt, I think we probably go back, as long as you can go back, 30 years at least. I ran for the House, and I didn't know Matt. And after I think it was after my second term, somebody said, "Hey, this Matt McCoy's thinking of challenging you in a primary." I said, "Who's Matt McCoy?" You know, I didn't know who he was, who this kid was, and he was young. I used to be young, and so I served in the House. Matt didn't run against me. Did the right thing, and then we had an open seat in the Senate after reapportionment. And I moved to the Senate after 3 terms in the House, and Matt came behind me, took my House seat. And I hope that that was the beginning of really extending yourself from the Senate to your House member, first to mentor you and introduce you to senators, because it's very important, you know, when you have to pass something from one side to the other, it always helps to know your senator. And who your House members are, and you should work as a team. And so with my 2 reps, and Matt was the senior rep there, we did very well, and we were working gaming legislation for Polk County and so forth. And then I left the Senate in '97, and I endorsed Matt, and I said that he would be a great senator, he'd be a great asset to the caucus, and then I've been gone for 18 years. And I follow it a little bit, but he was always right on the issues. And I'm not going to ever say Matt McCoy was over the top, because what would he say if I was leaving today? I mean, I think he's kind of a little understated. I think you could be much more colorful, Matt, and a little louder and a little more spicier. But your issues are good. You know, we didn't always agree on issues, but we were always in the same place, just from maybe a little different angle. But the fact now that you're moving to a new era of your life, and if you by chance are fortunate and you're elected, you will make a difference in Polk County. I worked there 41 years and sat through thousands of board meetings, and there's no debate. They make their deals before their meetings, and they got their votes, and it goes to the floor, and it's 3-2 or 5-0, depending on non-con, but there's no discussion. Meeting starts at 9:30, and before 9:40, it's adjourned, and they may have had 40 items on the agenda. And I think that has deprived people of Polk County to hear why you arrived where you arrived to vote. And so I hope you change that. I think that's the one thing that I think county government, at least Polk County government, needs is more openness and how they reach their decisions. Because, if you went and sat at a board meeting and you wanted to hear about an issue, somebody makes a motion, they move it, second it, vote, done, move to the next item. And you never really get to hear the debate. So they're in for, I think, a surprise with you. I think you will be that person that will talk about the issues in the open. And I wish you all the best. And I know your family, and it's a great family. And so it's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to serve with you, and wish you the best of luck.
As a senator who's in the same age group, same peer group, a lot of Iowa experiences, and I don't think people can overstate how Iowa Matt McCoy is when it comes to the way he does his work and speaks about his experiences in a way that gives us all a lesson that we're here to do public service, and life happens around us. And I think Matt McCoy's life lessons are the most important part of his service. Expressed them in all of his work here. A lighthearted moment. The best time for me in our caucuses was when I had to translate for Senator Tom Hancock Matt McCoy's vernacular, if you will, especially in the gay community. And Senator Hancock had no idea what you were saying, and I sat next to him, and I was the one that had to translate the joke that Matt said. And those of you who know Senator Hancock, God rest his soul, would let out a big old chuckle, shake his head, and look down at the table. You taught that senator from Epworth some pretty interesting things, and I had the honor of being the translator. Matt, more than any other senator, in my view, personifies a pro-growth progressive. We all have to live with labels from time to time, and I think there are a lot of Democrats around Iowa who could take a real lesson from Matt McCoy on a consistent pro-growth message, and then a ton of progressive things that just push the curve. And I think to be successful the way Matt has been, you've got to combine them both. So I hope people take that lesson from you, especially in the Big D Democratic Party in Iowa. Your constituents gave you a lot of room to lead and change because you understood progressive ideas and why you've got to push that curve. But you also made sure the bulk of your work was about pro-growth, making sure people could get up in the morning, raise a family, retire with dignity. There are a lot of Iowa workers who will have Matt McCoy to thank because they will for years have a secure, sustainable retirement. Our closest work has been on money things, right? Democrats aren't supposed to know about money, right? That's what they say about us during the campaigns. With some silly stuff like trolley cars and flower pots, which they tried in my district and it didn't work, my friend. And I'm glad we invested in Iowa. Some of the most progressive years were when we had our toughest economic years. The worst natural disaster in Iowa history, right at the same time we were fighting the Great Recession. Matt McCoy, Bob Dvorsky, every once in a while they'd let me be a part of something, and away we'd go. We had money in the bank. Today we still have growth, barely felt the housing dip, which was the primary cause of the 08-09 recession. And Matt McCoy was every day trying to figure out how to get some more investment back into Iowa to keep it going. True pro-growth, progressive. And let me give you one more lesson when I finish, Matt. I think people can look at Matt and understand that if you're on the infrastructure committee, Senator Johnson, you can do a lot of operational policy through that bricks and mortar budget. Senator Dotzler mentioned it. Every day I go to the firehouse for duty at 18th and Main in Cedar Falls. Right next door is a building called the Homestead. And there they take care of kids with autism. Never went through a policy committee. Matt McCoy said, if I can put the bricks and mortar together for people to show up and take care of kids with autism, the rest of it will take care of itself. And every time I come out of the fire station, Matt, I look over, it's literally right across the creek. Bricks and mortar, folks. The infrastructure budget. Saw the possibilities of how he could help folks. And it stands muster today. If you look at the investment of that program alone, right? Just a little bit of nudge to open the building up. There's the professionals every day helping these kids. So never underestimate the infrastructure chair and their ability to still solve a lot of problems around the state of Iowa. And I hope my friends on the other side of the aisle understand that this flower pot, trolley car, and all this other stuff might be interesting during the campaigns, but there's a reason Congress probably doesn't function as well as it should. They don't have the ability to know and understand their districts like Matt McCoy knew every county in Iowa when he sat down to do the infrastructure budget. You're going to see some of that work reflected here in the next couple of days. And so you're the glue of the Senate. And my best times with Matt were at the end of the session. You knew he'd done his homework. He knew there were some friction points. And he said, hey, why don't we do this here in the infrastructure budget? Best story. So today, the Iowa Sullivan Brothers Veterans Museum has an oral history collection of Korean War veterans. We're out here on the floor, and this is kind of a lesson to other senators. Not everything just happens the way you think it's going to happen. We're out here on the floor, and somebody on your side of the aisle started to attack Matt's infrastructure budget, which had a investment for, I think it was a Japanese monument down here in the riverfront area. And of course, it was the flower pot argument. We're going to use it in the campaigns. And so Matt did his best to try to argue why it was a good investment to honor that relationship with our friends from Japan. I think it was a war memorial, if I remember right. How could you be against it? But apparently that's our politics these days. So he calls for a caucus. We walk into the caucus. Matt knows when to quit pushing. He says, Danielson, you got money for the Veterans Museum. And that's how we ended up funding what today is the Korean War Oral History Project at the Sullivan Brothers Museum in Waterloo. Not the way I would like to do it, but that's what Matt does. He just still makes it work. And you guys have tried everything under the sun, and he just keeps figuring out a way to make it work. That should be your legacy, Matt, and I hope Democrats in particular take a lesson from that. It's been an honor to serve with you.
Brother McCoy, I just keep thinking about things in infrastructure and how I served in infrastructure for quite a while, and even after that as appropriations chair, working on every detail on that budget for a number of years and all the things that we got done there. One suggestion that Matt and I had that I thought was a great idea no one ever took up, and that's how to deal with the Wallace building, and the answer there is dynamite. But no one ever bought that. I don't know why. Anyway, and one other thing that's indelible in my memory was working on iJobs. I remember the hearings we had in Cedar Rapids on how can we save Cedar Rapids, and then coming back and Senator Hogg, yourself, and I going into the meeting and saying, are they going to buy this? We had a bunch of money going directly to Cedar Rapids off the top of the iJobs to save Cedar Rapids, and lo and behold, the rest of the committee bought into it totally. And we move forward. And Cedar Rapids is just a miracle today, as well as the other flood communities we were able to help with the iJobs program and all the things we did with their programs. But it was always Matt McCoy trying to figure out what's the best way to do the infrastructure budget, what we should fund here, there, and everywhere, and statewide situations. So I really appreciate that. And I appreciate all your comments in caucus, too. I mean, it kept our caucus awake, kept us on task, and, most of them were really telling comments. And it's been a pleasure being your friend all these years, and it's been an honor, a privilege serving with you. And as Senator Zahn said, go there and take care of Polk County supervisors.
My first year in the Senate, I went in the caucus and I asked questions, but I didn't talk that much, but I took good notes. You know, I think part of me being a teacher, I wanted to learn. And I have a lot of notes referencing quotes from Senator Matt McCoy that I hope someday to write a book, and I'll have to certainly give him credit. I can't use my quotes in the classroom because they're just not quite appropriate for the class, but I did learn a lot through the process, and just some similarities and differences. Senator McCoy and I share the same birthday, March 29th, and we're both Democrats, and we both care about kids and public health, safety issues. But there are some differences. I'm from little small town Maquoketa. He's from big city Des Moines, and he lets us know that a lot, that, you know, he lives in Des Moines, he represents Des Moines. He's a much better dresser than me. He's pretty styling. Hair is always perfect. Mine's kind of a mess most days. He's a much healthier eater. I mean, he probably just gets disgusted with what I eat, and he's watching his weight, he's working out, he's eating and drinking all these healthy things. Silver tongue. You know, it's been mentioned many times, Matt's quick wit. And he's just pretty amazing with some of the things that come out of his mouth, and I certainly enjoy them most of the time. I'll just recall I was floor managing a bill on school radon a few years back, and it's an issue we shared a lot of passion about, and through compromise, working with the House and the other senators on the other side of the aisle, we came up with an agreement that was going to be bipartisan, that we're going to send with a strong message to the House. So it wasn't quite what Matt had in mind. And so after my opening remarks, he stood up and kind of bashed it, and he compared it to a warm bucket of spit. And I kind of scratched my head, did he just call our bill a warm bucket of spit? And I looked back, and he said, it's like a warm bucket of spit. And he did it twice. And I was like, dang, Matt, you don't have to put our bill down that much. But he always spoke the truth, what he felt in his heart, regardless. And that's what people like about you, Matt, is that they know exactly where you're at. So, safety, children, progressiveness. One thing that hasn't been mentioned too much, I don't think, is how knowledgeable you are. You got a lot of institutional history here, Matt. You know how this place works. And then you also do your homework. I don't know how many hours you spend at night reading bills and researching in addition to your background knowledge. But man, if I ever had a question about something, especially infrastructure, transportation, whatever, commerce, very complicated issues, you knew your stuff. You did your homework, and I really respected that, Matt. So I thank you for your many, many years of public service and wish you the best. And I'll also say this, you know, even though I'm from a little hick town called Maquoketa, I invite you to come to Maquoketa. I think you would love to speak to my class, and I think they would love to hear from you. So with that, Matt, I wish you the best.
Honor Senator Matt McCoy for your years of service. Matt, I believe you and I are the last two left from our original House class. And over the last 2 decades, I have watched you blossom and grow into the outstanding man you are today. What I'm going to miss is, as Senator Bowman mentioned, your McCoyisms, like comparing things to a warm bucket of spit. But what I really am going to, what I really honor and respect you for more than anything is that you have opened up that window of human rights. And you have left many more groups of people enter into that window and that doorway, whether it's the LGBT community or kids with disabilities or that you helped to raise up kids like Natalie Finn, who the system had failed, and you never left us forget that we can do better. So, Matt, we're going to miss you a great deal, and I wish you all the best in your next adventure on the Board of Supervisors. I'm sure we're going to read many of your quotes in the Des Moines Register, but now as a Board of Supervisor rather than a state senator. All the best, Matt.
I'm getting to the feeling that everything that's needs to have been said has been said, just that not everybody has said it. I'll try not to go back over too many points that have already been made. You are indeed a colorful phrase maker, though I have to acknowledge that. And the folks on the other side of the aisle, they don't know the half of it. The two things that I remember from early on, and you and I have served together, this is the 16th year. I remember the day that I was sworn in January of 2003, and you were up at the same time, and families were here and friends were here, and your son Jack, who was about this tall at that time, I think you were sitting where Senator Jochum is sitting right now. I remember him running up and down the aisles and generally making a pain of himself. I didn't realize he was quite a chip off the old block. But he has turned out to be a fine young man, and you are to be congratulated for your guidance that you have given him. The other thing that I remember from early on, and it's an achievement I never came any close to aspiring to, is that you ran a little road race once upon a time out in Boston. Now, we have one of our junior members here today who's making something of a thing of his exploits in the marathon races around the country. But we really need to educate him that he really can't claim to be a true marathoner until he has run the Granddaddy. From Hopkinton through Heartbreak Hill, down past on Boylston Avenue, down past the Prue, down to the finish line. You are not yet at your finish line, but you have run a great race here in the Senate. It has been an honor and a pleasure to have you as a colleague. I wish you all the best in June, the 5th primary, and in everything else that you do. Thank you for your service.
Senator McCoy, you're a short timer. If it wasn't for Senator Horn and Senator Dvorsky, your retirement would really be a big deal, but not such a big deal under the circumstances. Lots has been said. One of the things, I know how much, you and I both have kids about the same age. I know what Jack has meant to you, and just an extraordinary young man. And the other thing, Senator Dvorsky alluded to it, on the behalf of the constituents of mine in Cedar Rapids, thank you for what you did after the flood of 2008, because you provided decisive leadership to make sure that we could get off our backs and come back. And I just want to thank you publicly for that.
Matt, I haven't had a lot of opportunity to work with you in my short time in the Senate, but I have great memories of working with you from the House on the puppy mill legislation. Back then, I had the six-pack to get around, and we were comparing notes, and I said, Matt, your bill is much stronger than mine, but I can't get there. You said, Jim, send me what you can. This bill is too important for the animals to fail. I always remember that. Matt, I wish you all the best.
We've said a lot of stuff about Matt, but one of the things that I didn't hear is some people are probably going to be happy that he's gone because they do have an opportunity to be talked about in a different way. Like there are some of us around here that really take pride in how we dress. And you never get noticed because Senator McCoy's always been the best dressed person here in the Iowa Senate. So some of us do have a chance in the future, so we're going to have to step up our game. Also, some of us might, as we've heard already, have an opportunity to maybe get some media time. Senator McCoy, it seems like almost every night on some issue, you're on every local TV station and somehow make it in the radio, in the print too. So we've got a chance there. We do. And with the McCoyisms gone, some of us out here say some pretty witty things, you know, so maybe we'll get a shot at some of that. One of the things that has been talked about is how, Senator McCoy, you are the first openly gay legislator in the history of the Iowa legislature. And it was something that you had struggled with and grew through and developed as a person that makes us all proud of who you are. You wrote a book. The title was McCoy, You're Going Straight to Hell. And in that book, there was a lot of emails and things that people had said, detrimental and some positive things about you, which was received across this country. And one of the, he did it with Jim Ferguson, I think an English professor from Iowa State. You worked together on some of that. And I was reading some of the reviews of it, and I thought this one was particularly impressive, and it's pretty simple. It's a crucial reminder of what authentic democracy is of the people and for the people. And in the end, we are all the same people. And I think that says a lot about Senator McCoy. We're going to miss him because he's an authentic person, and I've learned a lot from him. You know, I thought it was kind of interesting that Senate Resolution 123 reminded me of a 60s song, and I double-checked on the words. I think it was somewhere about 1964 or 65. Len Berry had these words. I can't sing it. Some people are very capable of singing, but I'll just, you'll know what the song is. 1, 2, 3, that's how elementary it's going to be. Come on, let's fall in love. It's so easy, it's so easy. Like taking candy from a baby. Senator McCoy, I think it's pretty appropriate that 1, 2, 3 is your resolution because we love your heart. We love how you care for the less fortunate and the vulnerable. We also love who you are and who you have become. We love you. And with that, Mr. President, I would like to move Senate Resolution 123 honoring Senator Matt McCoy.
I'm truly honored by all those that spoke. And I've got a little funny story about Chaz Allen. When Chaz was mayor of Newton, and they were going through all the things that they were experiencing at Maytag, he used to come down and work with the legislature and talk to us. And so, you know, I always knew Chaz was going to be a pro-growth, pro-business legislator. And I think one of the first days that he came into the legislature, we sat together on the Commerce Committee, and I came in and sat next to him, and he said, "McCoy, you're so liberal." He says, "I don't even want to sit next to you." He said, "Move across the table so people don't think we're together." And I know that you're another pro-business, pro-growth Democrat, along with Senator Danielson and Senator Mathis and Senator Petersen and many others. It's been an honor and it's been a privilege to serve as a state senator representing the South, the West, and West Des Moines, including a portion of Norwalk. I have enjoyed this Senate very much. And as most of you know, I think this is a very special place. For me, it was a place where I found myself. You know, we all run for office because we believe in something, right? Nobody runs for office because they don't have a plan or they don't believe in something. So we all believed in something. I believed in standing up for underdogs. I wanted to help people that had been marginalized in life and people that didn't always get it right the first time, people that made mistakes but kept trying to get it right. In many respects, I was the type of person that I was trying to help. I just didn't know it when I first ran for office, because I was pretty young. I was 25 years old. I hardly knew anything. When I came to the Iowa Senate, by all outward appearances, my life looked pretty good. But internally, I knew that something was not quite right. While in the Iowa Senate, I had the opportunity of discovering who I was truly called to be. And I did come out as an openly gay man to my friends, my colleagues, but most importantly, to my constituents. And I want to say, everyone was very good to me. I also discovered the gift of sobriety while serving in the Iowa Senate. And that was 18 years ago. This was the same year my son Jack was born. And I'm very proud of the fact that my son has never seen me take a drink. I'm also proud of the great kid that Jenny McCoy and I were able to raise together. Jack spent a lot of time with me in the Senate as a kid, and I took him everywhere I went, with campaign stops and fundraisers and funerals. I remember Jenny giving me hell because I took him to an Italian funeral. Bisignano knows what that's like. And he was about 2 or 3 and fascinated by the casket and the body in the casket. And Jenny thought I had ruined the kid for life. And I think we had to go see a psychologist to discuss whether that was good parenting or bad parenting. But Jack went to as many funerals as I went to, which is about 2 a week. My favorite memory of Jack was him leaning over that balcony. About the point of that balcony, I'd lost him, and that wasn't unusual up here because I had a roll of quarters in my desk, and he'd go down and hit the Blue Bunny machine for ice cream as soon as he got here, and usually with a page in tow. And he was leaning over. I looked up. He was leaning over that point. He was about 6 years old, and he had a bubble machine, and it was blowing bubbles down over the head of the Senate president, who happened to be Mary Kramer, who I lovingly always referred to as Mother Superior. And we were in full session debating, and there was no adults near him, nobody in this side of the balcony, and I gave him a look like, this is it, you know, and I think he knew he was busted. The other thing he did when he was 3, I was holding him like this, because he was acting up and he wanted to go home and he couldn't believe the way these people were droning on around here. And we went to vote. It was the last bill of the day, and I hit the yes button and looked away, and he went over and switched my button from yes to no. At the same time, they locked the machine. And I've got the vote at home. It was an important vote, and I did not want to be a no, but the machine was locked. And we actually had a parliamentary discussion in the well with Senator Conley talking about how we never unlock the machine once the machine is locked to change your vote. But somehow we got through that parliamentary issue and they allowed me to change my vote back to a yes. You know, looking back on my services in the Senate, there's so many things that I'm proud of. That's the beauty of the legislative process. We are all just as good as our ability and our willingness to cooperate and work together. That is how Iowa recovered from the worst national disaster that our state had ever faced. Natural disaster, it was a horrible flood. That's how we expanded the 2007 Civil Rights Act. And that's how we expanded Medicaid in a bipartisan way to more than 150,000 working Iowans. You know, the greatest days for me in the legislature were the days that we worked together in bipartisan cooperation. I recall many amazing moments in my tenure, and I was proud to be from a state that voted against reinstatement of the death penalty. And that was one of the few times in a debate that I actually saw hearts and minds and votes change. And Pam, you were there. I was there. We saw it happen. It was something pretty magical. I was so proud of Iowa that we decided not to write discrimination into the state constitution. And I was proud the year that we decided to expand preschool to every 4-year-old in Iowa. We have done some great things together, and those are the times that I will remember when I think back on my legislative service. Now I'd like to thank the people that really run the Iowa Senate. First of all, I'd like to thank our professional research staff, both Democratic and Republican. You're amazing people. You make us look good. Without you, very little would happen up here. We have an amazing legislative service agency in a nonpartisan way that helps us look good every day and gives us the facts and information that we need to be successful. The Secretary of the Senate and his support staff, Charlie, your whole team, do an amazing job. The doorkeepers, the sergeant of arms, the phone personnel that are so patient with all our constituents on the phone, and the post office staff. To all our clerks, and my clerk, Taylor Vandekroll, who was my right-hand man, is now managing my campaign for county supervisor, and the wonderful pages that we have every single year. And Randy Wallace, who's one of the hardest workers in the state of Iowa and keeps this place looking so great. I want to thank the press. We need you more than ever right now. I'm always amazed at your ability to track legislation and get it right. I have many dear friends in the lobby, a lot of friends that I owe so much to. I want to say something about the lobby. The lobby does very important work. They advocate for their clients with passion, with commitment, and always try to provide us accurate and timely information. You only make it in the lobby because you honor your word and you tell the truth. And your work is honorable, and so are you. As for me, I'm actually looking forward to my future and whatever that may hold. It is so exciting for me to be campaigning, to be knocking doors, and sharing my vision of Polk County with voters. Since announcing my campaign, I have felt more engaged, alive, and challenged than I've ever felt in my life. And I have really, I think, just recognized how important that door knocking is. Although starting in February, door knocking in snow and ice and, horrible winters. I mean, it's hard to believe that we fought for this land some days. And what a miserable spring this has been. I swear, every single weekend it has either rained on me, hailed on me, snowed on me, or we've had winds out of the north at 40 miles an hour. And despite that, I have been welcomed in every home by every constituent that I've knocked on their door. And people were really glad to see me. And I think they're glad to see you. And I think they know the sacrifices that you're making being down here. And you should be all honored for the work that you do every single day on behalf of your constituents. And I remember Senator Horn's line when he mentioned if he had it all over to do over again, would he have done it? And talking about the impact that it had on his family. And I know the impact that it's had on your families, and you all haven't had the proximity to your children like I had with Jack. Although I think some days he would have liked to have had less proximity to me. I'm very confident that with this legislature, the very best days for our state are ahead of us. I count you all as my friends. Don't always like you, but I love you all. And wish each one of you the very best. And now for an Irish blessing for you all. May you always have walls for the winds, a roof for the rain, tea beside the fire, laughter to cheer you, those you love near you, and all your heart might deserve. God bless you all. Thank you.